The formula for consistent profits in a $1 million business. The big mistake that business owners make. Most business owners think that making more money is the answer. They think that money will solve their problems. So they keep trying to make more. They start to focus on marketing and sales and think that it's going to be the answer to all their problems. But that's not the truth. You can have a $1 million business and still struggle financially if you don't focus on profit instead of just revenue. So think of it this way. Revenue is like how much water you pour into a bucket. Profit is what's left over in the bucket after all the leaks, aka expenses, right, are gone. So if you don't manage those leaks, it doesn't matter how much water you add, it'll keep draining out. If you've ever lived paycheck to paycheck and you get a raise and for some reason you keep living paycheck to paycheck, it's exactly how it is in a real business. So let's talk about how to get out of that rut. There are 3 steps to becoming a more profitable business. And in this video, I will show you, number 1, how to shift your mindset, how to think like a revenue generator instead of just spending money. Number 2, make data-driven decisions. We're gonna use your numbers, your previous numbers, to guide your choices instead of just guessing. And then number 3, control expenses the smart way. We need to keep your costs in check so more money stays in your pocket. By the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly how to make every dollar in your business work for you instead of working harder just to try to keep it. And by the way, if you don't know who I am, my name is Stacey Tuschl. I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years and my businesses produce over $10 million in annual revenue. All right, let's get to it. Step 1, we need to shift to a revenue generator mindset. Most business owners get this wrong. A common mistake is thinking about expenses as costs instead of investments. So a bad mindset is saying things like, payroll is expensive, marketing costs too much, I can't afford that. A better mindset is, how can I make sure every person on my payroll helps me bring in more money? Is my marketing bringing in more customers than it's costing me? And if not, how do I fix that? Your team should be generating revenue. Every single person on your team should either, number 1, make money directly, which means sales, marketing, customer retention, right? Or they support money-making efforts. So whenever I say they should either directly or indirectly make the company money, somebody always says, what does indirectly mean, right? Well, think about this. If I hire an assistant to come in and check my email, she might not have money-making opportunities in my email, but if she frees me up 1 hour a day and I get to now go do money-making activities, she has indirectly made the company money. But the big problem is you hire somebody, you pay them, but they aren't actually helping generate revenue, or maybe you didn't get stronger and making more money either. So what's the solution here? Well, first of all, you do a time audit and you track, what is everybody doing? And how do I remove or automate those low impact tasks so that they can focus on activities that actually support the revenue? Here are some key questions to ask yourself. Does every dollar I spend help my business grow? Is my team actually profiting? Are they focusing on the right work that moves the business forward? And I'm telling you, before you go and chase more sales or think you need to spend more on marketing, fix your team's efficiency first. It will increase your profits without you having to increase your revenue. We have so many clients that come in thinking, I need to grow the business. And when they say grow the business, what do they mean? They mean they need to make more money. And shockingly, one of the first things we do before we teach them to go add more to their chaos is we clean up. And they are so surprised to see how they could make more money, keep more of what's left over, without growing the top line. Now imagine if we did that. Like eventually we'll get to growing the top line, but let's clean up the mess you've got first. Step number 2, make data-driven decisions. So let's talk about why you need to track your numbers. Most business owners are guessing instead of looking at actual data. They say things like, well, we're having a bad week this week, or, it just feels a little slower than it did before, or last month, or last year. And when you go off of feelings and not facts, it leads to bad decisions and wasted money. So we have a rule here at Well Oiled. We always check our business metrics by the 7th of every single month. And before you think, well, my CPA doesn't get it to me that fast, or that's just not how, pause. You are in charge of your business. So whoever you're working with, you are going to make sure that you get those numbers by the 7th of each month. That is a non-negotiable for me. And if your CPA or accountant doesn't have capacity or capability to get it to you, it's time to change people. So let's talk about what to review every single month. Well, definitely revenue. I know I said that's not our main focus, but you do need to know how much money came in. Then we need to go, but how much was left over? Then we compare these numbers to last month, or sometimes we have to compare it to the same time last year. So some businesses, September is nothing like August. So you're better off looking at this September and then last September, right? Or you might want to look at, well, what happened last August into September, and then what happened this August into September. That is going to give you a clearer picture of what is going on in your business. You will also want to be looking at your key performance indicators, KPIs. So the question is, did your team meet their goals? You want to think of this like a car dashboard. If you get in the car and there's a check engine light on, you wouldn't just ignore it, right? Your numbers are telling you what's working and flashing what's broken. So let's talk about how do we use this data. Once you have all those numbers, ask yourself, what changed last month? Did sales go up? Why? Did sales go down? What happened, right? Where are we losing money? Is there an expense that's too high? Are we starting to overspend on something that's not actually producing a return? I'm like a detective inside of these numbers. I'm asking, what's actually working, and I'm doubling down on what's bringing in money. So the bottom line is, you don't just want to track your numbers, you want to use them to make the decisions moving forward. So if something isn't making you money, fix it or get rid of it. And then step number 3, start spending and expense ratios. This is one of those things that everybody wants to know. Stacey, what is the amount of money I should be spending on marketing? What is the amount of money I should be spending on payroll? What percentage, right? We'll get there. So hold tight with me. Now, let's discuss why controlling costs are key. If your expenses are out of control, it doesn't matter how much you sell. You will never keep enough money. I am telling you, we work with business owners in the multiple 6-figure range, 7-figure range, 8-figure range. I have seen businesses at every level spend as much money as they're making, literally $0 left over, or be at 7 or 8 figures and still be negative. They come in with really bad habits that they could not let go of, and we have to try to undo a lot of it. The good news is it can be undone, but you've got to be serious about this. So here's a simple way to check your spending. Start to look at your business expense ratios. Now, I could tell you what they should be, but every business is different. Now, you've probably heard things like, well, payroll should be 30 to 40% of revenue, right? Or marketing should definitely never go over 15%. And then your fixed expenses like your office rent and your software should never be over 20%. There are gurus out there telling you these hard numbers. But I've worked with hundreds of businesses, and I can tell you that some spend more than 20% in marketing, and they have a healthy profit margin. I've seen payroll at 60% with a very healthy business. So all that said, you just need to know your numbers and ask yourself, well, what am I currently doing? How much was my marketing budget last month? What percentage of my revenue? What percentage was payroll? What about my hard costs? Know your numbers, but then know the big number. The profit or lack of profit is going to tell you the truth. So I'm not here to tell you your one number's too high and it's too low. I just want to know what's the bottom line, and that will tell me if your numbers are in alignment or not, or if there's work to do. And the biggest profit killer of them all is keeping unnecessary costs. So your challenge is to audit your expenses. Go into your bank account, go into your credit card, and look at every single thing you're spending your money on. And ask yourself, okay, if this $79 software, did it make me more than $79 this month, right? Is it a revenue generator or is it an expense? Get a red highlighter and a green highlighter and start documenting which ones are which. Ask yourself, is this cost necessary or is it a waste? If I started over, would I still spend money on this? Can I cut, reduce, or automate this. Now, I will say you may be on contract for something for the next 12 months. You may have signed an annual software agreement. Here's what I will tell you. As frustrated as you are that you realize, wow, I've signed up for a $150 a month software and I've prepaid for the year or I'm committed for the next 12 months, my suggestion to you is to continue to pay that bill. Clean this up as fast as you can. Now, if you realize, I've committed to something for 12 months or I signed an annual agreement for this or that software I paid in full and it's paid up through the next 7 months. Sometimes we've done that. And I will tell you this, I just bite my tongue and continue to make those payments until I'm out of my contract. As somebody who's in business, I want to be as respectful to the other businesses that I've made a commitment to. So yes, sometimes you are finishing out something that you know is not producing a return. Now, could you go back to a company to renegotiate or talk to them about what you're seeing or why you're not using it? You absolutely could. But if you're under contract and they are saying, no, you do need to continue to pay this, I personally would continue to pay it. I do believe in that whatever behavior you have, you will attract back into your own business. And trust me, you don't want your clients doing that to you. Now, the good news is you have some things you're not under contract for. You've paid one time or you're doing it month to month. Go get rid of those and then make notes for, hey, that contract ends in November. I want to make sure October, I send them a message that I will not be renewing or I want to end that software subscription. Now, if you're spending more than you're bringing in, you don't have a real business. You have a cash eating monster. So we need to fix your expenses first. And my biggest tip is don't be delusional, especially if your business is going backwards. Sometimes what happens is I work with really successful business owners, people that already have hit sometimes 7, 8 figures. And I had a lot of people go through this, especially during the pandemic. They were a 7-figure, very successful, very healthy business. And the pandemic hit them hard. Business was shut down and their revenue went backwards. But they kind of had this entitlement that, well, I'm a 7-figure business and this is what we spend and these are the things we have. And they were spending more than they were making. And I had to say, you've got to get your expenses back under control. You've got to cut some things out. And they couldn't fathom getting rid of people on their team. They couldn't fathom not having a specific service or thing they got accustomed to. But unfortunately, when your revenue dips, your expenses have to follow if you want to get back up to winning and being at the top. So don't be delusional. Get to break even as fast as possible and then start working your way back up. My final thoughts here is stop playing the revenue game. And I'm talking to the old Stacy because I love big revenue numbers and I'm sure you do too. You're a high achiever, you're a powerhouse, you want to scale. But the truth is profit, not revenue, is what actually pays your bills. It's what builds your wealth. It's what gives you the freedom. So the mindset shift you need is stop asking, how much money did I make? And start asking, how much money did I keep? So your next steps, by the 7th of every month, I want you to start reviewing your numbers. Then I want you to find one expense to reduce or cut. Just one. And let me tell you, it's going to be really easy. And in fact, you're not going to do just one. You're going to do that activity of going back over the last 30 days, and you're going to find a ton. And I would love for you to come back under this video and tell me how much money did you save by cutting out expenses that just weren't necessary. And if this just feels overwhelming to you, join our Well-Oiled Operations program where we can help you set up these systems and tracking tools to help you scale profitably. Sometimes you just need a sounding board. You need somebody to talk to. You need that accountability. And that's what we do here at Well-Oiled Operations. So it's time to drop the ego, stop focusing on revenue and how high that number is. And did you hit 6 or 7 or 8 figures? And start bragging about your profits. Start focusing on that bottom line, what is left over. And trust me, you will be so much happier you did.